You just witnessed a portrayal of someone after consuming marijuana. They portray them as hyperactive fools in this movie, yet the effect is quite different. Marijuana was usually found to inhibit the expression of aggressive impulses by pacifying the user, interfering with muscular coordination, reducing psychomotor activities, and generally producing states of drowsiness, lethargy, timidness, and passiveness.
Sometimes, not very often.
Try a reefer.
What's that?
Oh, it's a special kind of a high-powered cigarette. You'll love it.
One thing I won't stand for, Bruce. That was marijuana you were smoking. Worse than cocaine. You ought to know better than that, Bruce.
Oh, rats, what's the harm? Give the kid a thrill.
Thrill me eyes. See those punks over there, Marge? They were high a few minutes ago, up in the clouds. Now they're getting low. Pretty soon they'll be mean, ready to commit murder. Marijuana's called the murder weed. Don't you ever touch it again.
Oh, good grief. Let's drink up and have a good time.
The woman is clearly upset her friend is smoking marijuana and claims that it is worse than cocaine. This is not true. A careful search of the literature and testimony of the nation's health officials has not revealed a single human fatality in the United States proven to have resulted solely from the ingestion of marijuana. She then goes on to claim that the couple on the couch that smoked earlier will soon become mean and ready to commit murder. This statement is beyond false, as only a small proportion of marijuana users, among any group of criminals or delinquents known to the authorities and appearing in study samples, have ever been arrested or convicted for such violent crimes as murder, forcible rape, aggravated assault, or armed robbery. When these marijuana-using offenders were compared with offenders who did not use marijuana, the former were generally found to have committed less aggressive behavior than the latter. Next up is a movie called Reefer Madness. It was originally black and white, but in 2004, 20th Century Fox, in collaboration with Legend Films, released a colorized version of the film on DVD. It is a 1936 American propaganda exploitation film revolving around the melodramatic events that ensue when high school students are lured by pushers to try marijuana. Once again, at the very beginning, in the intro, this movie is trying to scare the audience into believing that marijuana use will make a person violent, which was dismissed a minute ago. The movie starts out with the principal at a parent meeting warning the parents of the dangers of marijuana and delves into a story the principal says occurred.
be stopped. You and all other school parent groups about the country, and you must stand united on this and stamp out this frightful assassin of our youth. You can do it by bringing about compulsory education on the subject of narcotics in general, the dread marijuana in particular. That is the purpose of this meeting, ladies and gentlemen, to lay the foundation for a nationwide campaign by you to demand by law such compulsory education. Because it is only through enlightenment that this scourge can be wiped out. Out of the traffic in these drugs, a lawlessness that we can scarcely estimate has grown and is now flourishing. It exists in almost every city and hamlet in the country. It might be interesting and important for you to know some of the methods used in bringing these drugs into the country, and the work of the forces of law and order, which are daily combating the traffic, always at the risk of life by their agents. This ceaseless fight against the drug traffic is directed by the Department of Narcotics, Washington. I've received a letter of vital importance from a member of the Narcotics Bureau. I'm going to read this letter to you. My dear Dr. Carroll, the suppression of the use of marijuana and of the forces lurking behind it are the most important jobs this department is now engaged in. At the outset of this letter, there is one vital fact I would like to submit. There is a powerful agency. I speak of the school parent associations of this country, which can be invaluable in stamping out this scourge. Their help, their eternal vigilance, could be the deciding factor in our fight against it. The weed marijuana is grown in every state in the Union. Recently, in the city of Brooklyn, New York, a field of marijuana was found behind a tenement court. The weed was here being cultivated, regularly stripped and dried and sold in schools and at government army posts in and around New York. The dried leaves and berries are ground up and made into cigarettes by a simple hand machine. The deadly narcotic is thus quickly and easily prepared for its market. The sale of marijuana is even more difficult to detect and halt than the traffic in drugs such as opium, morphine, and heroin. They are hidden in fake jewelry cases, in the heels of shoes, women's shoes especially, because the drugs can be secreted in false heels. Hollowed shaving brushes are another medium. Books with false centers are often used. Watch cases are convenient hiding places. The value of drugs thus seized is enormous. Recently, a huge supply of heroin was taken. It was concealed in an apparently harmless shipment of 35 barrels of olive oil. The deadly drug was burned in the incinerator of the Bureau of Engraving and Printing. And more vicious, more deadly even than these soul-destroying drugs is the menace of marijuana. No doubt many of you do not believe that these things do happen, that they cannot happen to you. You may also believe that the facts have been exaggerated. Let me tell you of something that happened right here in our own city. You probably read about it in the papers. However, I'll give you the real facts behind the case. There was an apartment near one of our high schools. It was run by a woman known as May.
In this scene, Jack gives this kid marijuana instead of a cigarette.
Just for a minute, kid.
Hey, Jack, get me a cigarette before you go, will you?
The movie then portrays the teen as being reckless and having no control. This is not true and completely exaggerated.
Let's go, Jack. I'm red hot.
Better be careful how you drive, or the first thing you know, you'll be ice cold.
There is evidence showing that, unlike alcohol, marijuana enhances rather than mitigates the individual's perception of impairment. Reports and laboratory conditions, drivers under the influence of marijuana were aware of their impairment, which led them to decrease speed, avoid passing other vehicles, or reduce other risk-taking behaviors. Such was not the case with alcohol, for the authors reported that alcohol-impaired drivers were generally not aware of impairment, and therefore did not adjust their driving accordingly.
Let me show you something. In 1930, the records on marijuana in the Washington office of the Narcotics Division scarcely filled a small folder like this. Today, they fill cabinets.
Once again, they are talking about the violent acts people commit after smoking marijuana, which is false.
All these devoted to marijuana records. Here is an example. A 16-year-old lad apprehended in the act of staging a holdup. 16 years old and a marijuana addict. Here is a most tragic case.
Yes, I remember. Just a young boy. Under the influence of the drug, he killed his entire family with an axe.
Then there is the most vicious type of case. Here, in Michigan, a young girl, 17 years old, a reefer smoker, taken in a raid in the company with 5 young men. Here is a particularly flagrant case.
Yes, I remember. The newspapers made quite a play of it. In West Virginia, wasn't it?
Yes. And there are hundreds of them coming up, new ones every day.
I'd like to take these records, if I may. I feel they would be of invaluable assistance to me in combating the evil in my school.
You're very welcome, Dr. Carroll.
Thank you.
Here this man deceives her, and instead of giving her a cigarette, he gives her a marijuana joint.
Smoke, Mary?
Thanks. Are you sure Jimmy will be back soon?
Sure, any minute.
Say, what's the matter? Am I an orphan?
Where do you put it? You got a hollow leg?
Thanks, Steve.
You, Mary. Oh, Mary, give me everything, Mary.
He then tries to forcibly rape her after smoking marijuana, but once again this has been dismissed, as marijuana does not promote violent tendencies. This man smoked marijuana earlier.
Romeo, what o'clock tomorrow shall I send into thee? It's sweet of you to help me, Bill. Oh, thank you, kind sir.
He then commits violent acts.
Jack? Is she all right?
She's dead. May, get him some water. Now listen.
Once again, this man commits violent acts after smoking marijuana.
I know what you want. You want to kill me.
You're crazy. Take it easy, kid. I just want to talk to you.
So that our children are obliged to learn the truth. Because it is only through knowledge that we can safely protect them. Failing this, the next tragedy may be that of your daughter, or your son, or yours, or yours, or yours.
Because it may be hard to read, but it says, for centuries the world has been aware of the narcotic menace. We have competently watched Passaic countries attempt to rid themselves of drugs, curse, and attributed their failure to lack of education. We consider ourselves enlightened and think that never could we succumb to such a fate. But did you know that the use of marijuana is steadily increasing among the youth of this country? Did you know that the youthful criminal is our greatest problem today, and that marijuana gives the user false courage and destroys conscience, thereby making crime alluring, smart? That is the price we are paying for lack of interest in the narcotic situation. This story is drawn from an actual case history on file in the police records of one of our large cities. Hashish of the Orient is commonly distributed as a symbol. Its most terrifying effect is that it fires between license. In this scene, the men drink and smoke. The women and the blues have control and taking their clothes off to go skinny dipping in the ocean.
Is there anything here I haven't tried yet?
The funniest cigarettes I ever saw.
Funniest cigarettes I ever tasted. Here, Burma, try one of these on your algebra. What are they? I don't know.
We tried Tony's giggle water, let's try his giggle weed.
Oh, say, where are the girls?
Say, pal, can you fill this
Oh,
up?
too busy. I'm going to fill these up. Gotta fill up.
Look what we're missing.
Oh, well,
yeah.
listen, Jim, come on out here.
Many of
Much
the
like
others.
the women losing control,
It started
this
2
portrays
years
these
ago
boys as losing
with
control and
marijuana
hurting
cigarettes.
themselves. This is
on,
false
it's my
once
turn
again,
next.
as marijuana use makes a
Hey,
person
where'd you
timid,
get 'em?
passive,
I,
and lethargic.
I know a
They want
guy.
to be hyper like they are
Three for
portrayed.
buck. Let me try. Gee, I feel awful funny. Me too. I feel kind of sick. Come on, Marty, pass it on.
Marty got kind of sick too, but he wouldn't let on. He was determined to be one of the gang if it killed him. And it almost did. Several weeks later, after smoking reefers, Marty's befogged brain hit on a clever way to open pop bottles. Later, Stan went to the hospital for swallowing broken glass. Marty badly cut the inside of his mouth, though he didn't even know it at the time. Duke was the one who got Marty.